Hello and welcome to Emotional Savvy. I'm Dr. Roberta Shaler, the Relationship Help Doctor. And today I want to talk to you about a very important thing. It's something that we don't like to think about very much. It's something that we really don't want to own. And it's not something we love to admit to because we have to be particularly vulnerable to admit to these things. So today I want to talk about guilt and shame and toxic shame. These are three different things, some very closely aligned, and they're very important to understand. And I wanted to help with that a little today because many times these things that if we don't understand them and we don't dive into them, they are constantly affecting the way we feel about ourselves, of course, but they're also affecting the way we engage in relationships, and whether or not we can be assertive, and whether we believe we deserve to take up space and draw breath. And for some people, when you really dig down deep, you're wondering if you deserve to take up space and draw breath, or if anybody cares. And that's because something has happened to you. You didn't do that. You didn't make that up. Something has happened to you. And that's why I want to talk about these three things: guilt, shame, and toxic shame. So let me just define them a little bit before we go on. Guilt is you made a mistake, or you may say that to yourself, I made a mistake. Shame is when someone else says to you, you are a mistake. But toxic shame is when you internalize what that person said to you and you start saying to yourself, I am a mistake. And you start living from that place. And that's toxic to you. And when you get into that place, it is so difficult to get out of. I know I've helped many people out of that place. I know it's difficult because, first of all, it's very difficult to admit that you got there. And as I said earlier, you didn't get there by your own steam. That's a message you were given over time, probably started when you were very young. Because when you have toxic shame, you're reliving things that have been said and done to you from a very early age. And that's on other people, but it ends up residing in you if you're not careful. And I want you to have hope. You can, in fact, get rid of toxic shame. You can stop shame in its tracks. And certainly you choose whether or not you made a mistake or not. Guilt, to me, is a verdict. It is not a feeling. Guilt is a verdict. I did or I didn't do something. But my goodness, we've made it into a feeling. Like we're walking around feeling guilty. Don't do that. You did something, you don't like it, fix it. Let go of it. You did something, you don't like it, you can't fix it, apologize for it, let go of it. Don't walk around feeling guilty, and don't let anybody else make you feel guilty. Because in truth, nobody can make you feel anything. They can suggest something, but you're the one who decides to have that feeling and keep it. And as soon as you recognize you don't want it, you can give it away. But if you have had toxic shaming in your life, if somebody has been telling you over and over again, you are bad, you're not worth my time, you are incompetent, you are incapable, I don't know why I had you, I didn't want children anyway, that was my mother's favorite one, all kinds of things, messages that you've been given, it can translate into a general suspicion and mistrust of other people. And so you keep a low profile, you don't feel safe around people. This is sad. It's sad and unnecessary because you're an adult and now you can change that. No matter what those people said to you in the past, that was their problem. They made it your problem. Let's give it back to where it belongs. That's how we give up shame. We give it back to where it came from. Not so easy. You know, I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that it's easy because it's deeply ingrained, but you can do it. And I hope you will, because when you have toxic shame, your self-esteem suffers so badly. Some people even get to the place of self-loathing, and that's awful. Just a chronic sense of, I don't matter. And you do. You matter. And you need to know that you have the power to remember and act from and demonstrate in every moment that you matter. You know, you've probably heard about this thing called the imposter syndrome. That's where you try to behave as though you know something or you are something, and you probably are that very thing, but there's a piece in you that quite doesn't believe it. You know, you think, well, if everybody knew me really, they wouldn't believe I'm that good at it or that I'm that competent. And so you have this imposter syndrome, like you are pretending to be the good person you are, or you're pretending to be the talented or informed person that you are. And you're not. You really are that person. But when you have been shamed, you may have that imposter syndrome, and you can overcome that as well. I had it. I know what I had to go through to overcome it. And I can help you do that too. And when we have toxic shame, along with it goes anxiety and tension. Oh, so much. And we feel victimized, and the conversation in our head, if we get to the toxic shame part, that conversation in our head is so destructive, and we're the one who's now shaming ourselves. Now, just hearing that out loud, would you want to continue doing that? I don't believe that you would. And I know for sure you didn't choose to start it. But where the power lies for you is in deciding to stop it. Another way that this toxic shame shows up is that when you've had a parent, particularly a hijackal parent, and you know, I talk about hijackals all the time, those relentlessly difficult, toxic people in our lives that constantly want to hijack relationships for their own purposes to make themselves feel better, and then to scavenge them for power and control all the time. And if you've had a parent like that, highly likely they wanted to do a good job of shaming you, because that gave them power and control over you. But the good news is now as an adult, you can say, no, I'm not having that anymore. I do not have any evidence in reality for the fact that I am not worthy of drawing breath and taking up space. I am a capable person. I get up in the morning, I do my work, I have a job, I pay my bills, I look for a job, I interact with the world, I take care of my children, I can drive a car. I am a capable human being, and we have to start there. You know, many times I've told groups, starting in 1984, I remember it very, very clearly, when I used to have big groups in my home every evening. And we would work on these things. And everybody got a mirror. I had a hand mirror for everyone. And say, now look deeply into your own eyes and say, I love you, I accept you, and I approve of you just the way you are. Mwah! And everybody'd laugh. And I said, no, you got to throw the kiss, because you need to have that emphasis. I love you, I approve of you, and I accept you just the way you are. Mwah! And that's a great way of starting to overcome the shame, that you actually do it yourself. You say, no, I don't see that in the mirror. I see a person that I love, that I care about, that I accept, that I appreciate, that is worthy of love, worthy to be cherished, worthy to be heard and known and acknowledged and accepted. And you start by doing that work within yourself. You give that gift to yourself. And when you do that, things start to shift. When you actually recognize that you can give yourself that gift, you don't need those other people. Yeah, they're lovely if they give you validation. But if you have experienced toxic shame, when somebody tells you you're wonderful or lovable or how much they love you or how much they appreciate you, there's that little voice inside going, oh, no, 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 no. But when you do some work, and I'm going to give you a couple other ideas today, when you do the work, you can start believing those other people. You can accept that validation. And that's the beginning of change. That's the beginning when you begin to take up space and draw breath as a fully capable, worthy, lovable human being in your own right, no matter what anybody told you before this moment. So very, very important. Because people who have lived with toxic shame are much more susceptible to becoming addicted to alcohol or substances. They want to escape. They want to numb out. They just want to get away from this horrible feeling of loathing of themselves. And I'm sure you haven't got to that point, but maybe there have been moments. And if there have, forgive yourself and move on. I want you to be gentle with yourself. Gentle. Be kind to yourself. Be loving to yourself. Do you know, if you treat yourself well, you will be much more likely to teach other people to treat yourself well too. And one of the places we have to start treating ourselves well is in our self-talk. When I give large seminars, I often have people repeat this after me, and you can do it too. I solemnly promise to never say anything about myself that I do not want to be true, especially when I talk to myself in my head. Got it? I solemnly promise never to say anything about myself that I do not want to be true, especially when I talk to myself in my head. Okay. So every time you hear yourself criticizing yourself or downplaying something or actually making yourself small or insignificant or taking away an accomplishment or not being able to receive a compliment, step up and say, no, no, no. I'm going to accept that. I'm going to believe that. I'm going to take that in because this person is talking about who I am right now. Not who some toxic parent told me I was, or some bad person in the community, or somebody who had an axe to grind and decided to grind it on you. No, I'm going to believe right now the good things about myself. You may have had a mother like me. If I ever said anything good about myself, she said, "Don't you get conceited, young lady." And that became part of who I am. And why wouldn't we say things that are good about ourselves? It's not conceited, it's a fact. You do something well, say that you do something well. You appreciate something about yourself, tell yourself you appreciate that. You have that right. It's not conceited or bragging or arrogant or any of the things my mother would have said it is. It is simply a fact. And you are the author of your experience as an adult. No matter what those people said to you, no matter what they did, you are now the author of that experience. So I gave you that little exercise to do. Then be compassionate with yourself. It's what I call inclusive compassion. Include yourself in the compassion. You're probably really good at giving compassion to others, but do you include yourself in it? Are you kind to yourself? Are you loving? Do you give time and attention to yourself? Do you engage in great self-care? Do you spend time with yourself alone every day? I hope you do. It's an absolutely great thing to do. And then get some help. Work with someone like me. You know, we can work together. Just go to forrelationshiphelp.com, FORrelationshiphelp.com. We can certainly work together to work on this. But get help. Work with somebody who can say to you, let's see what's the basis of this in reality right now. Where did those old voices come from? We can identify them, but let's get up to date. Let's be talking about where am I right now? What is it that I am doing right now that is good, that is wise, and that I can acknowledge myself for? Start there. Because if there's been any shaming in your life, you need recovery. And you can give that back. Hey, Mom, I can say to my mother easily, although she's passed long ago, hey, you might have needed to shame me. I didn't need to receive it, and I reject it. I reject it because I know who I am now, and I'm willing to accept the truth about myself as I see it now in a healthy fashion. Not as the gift she hoped she was giving me to make herself feel better. So I hope this has been helpful. It's another way to get some emotional savvy. Look, guilt is when you make a mistake. Shame is when someone tells you you are a mistake, but toxic shame is when it gets inside you and you start telling yourself you're a mistake. We can stop all of that, and I hope you will. I hope you will take this to heart. Start thinking about it. Listen to my YouTube channel for relationship help. Get in contact with me. Join one of my groups on Facebook. You can develop greater emotional savvy, and I'm here to help. I'm Dr. Roberta Shaler, and I'm so glad you were with me today, and I look forward to talking and working with you soon.